Welcome to FRC Updates Now for December 28th, 2021. I'm your host, Tyler Olds. By Grapthar's Hammer, what a savings.
By Grapthar's Hammer, what a savings.
The Thrifty Bot places their roots back to 2019 as a husband and wife team with the mission to provide lower cost, commonly used parts to the first robotics teams. Starting with bearings and shaft collars, TFB has grown a strong following with their Mimi Cheap Delphi posts and really burst on scene in the 2020 season with the introduction of their 2-inch 3D printed vector intake wheels that you can see used by hundreds of first teams and FRC teams, of course, for infinite recharge. You can find out more about the Thrifty Bot by heading over to thethriftybot.com. And joining me from the Thrifty Bot is longtime friend of fun, Ryan Dognaux. Ryan goes back to, as far as the 2001 season, as far as I do as a student as well. So once again, certified first boomer. And he's mentored several FRC teams in Indiana and the St. Louis area and is the current mentor on Team 5010. Ryan also started off-season events, has been a FRC and VEX MC and game announcer, and is one of my longest first friends, Ryan, man. We go back, we were talking about 2002, 2003, when we connected together over our roles in digital animation on our team. We've come a long way, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tyler, for that history lesson, man. That recap.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. We've known you a long time.
Dude,
it's good to see
20 years
all your
coming
success
up.
was fun. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, and we're excited to talk about the Thrifty Bot, a little bit of the origins of Thrifty Bot, of course, talking about how you're looking at growing out of the pandemic as we go through into the 2022 season and rapid react. We'll be talking about products that you've released in 2021, some new products coming for 2022, so very excited to talk more about that. And then we'll have a little fun with Explain That Image, where we found some interesting photos involving you on the internet that we'll talk about too. Well, Ryan, you're going to be giving away a pack of vectored intake wheels, and I think they can pick whatever color they want, right?
Yeah, any color. I'll send you a 4-pack, just whatever your preference is.
And if you're interested in winning these, all you have to do is type in the YouTube comments what your favorite color of vectored intake wheel is, which one you would choose on here, and we'll pick a winner for that in a few days, and appreciate Ryan for giving that as a giveaway. Your destination for first content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now is supported by Kettering University. On average, Kettering students earn $45,000 to $70,000 over the course of their co-op program to help them graduate debt-free. 99% of students qualify for a merit scholarship, and you can apply for one of the 80-plus FIRST scholarships worth up to $25,000 each. Schedule your virtual visit to get started at Kettering.edu. Get ready for esports for those in first with the Fun Gaming League. FGL will have tournament events and be setting up Clan Play soon. FGL is open to all students, mentors, alumni, and volunteers in first ages 13 and older. Join the Fun Discord at discord.gg/first updates now for tournament and event info. Ryan, let's start out with the Thrifty Bot here. Can you talk to me a little about just some of the origins, the inspiration behind it, and then we'll kind of dive into the season and beyond as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thrifty Bot started about mid-2019, kind of as just an idea, right? It was looking into how we could source hex bearings and shaft collars a little less expensively and provide those to teams, because I've been on teams historically that have pretty low budget, right? So trying to see what some of these things cost was my goal, and going into just trying to figure out how to provide those to teams at a lower price point. So I found a source for them. We took a shot, invested a little bit of money into it, and ordered about 5,000 of them. And they started to sell. So it was kind of a neat thing. Teams had really good feedback and then started suggesting other products. And it's kind of snowballed from there. We've just reinvested all those profits back into the business to be able to kind of expand and go from those 2 SKUs. We're over to over 40 SKUs now. So it's been really cool to see the teams respond positively. And, I just can't thank them enough for all their support here over the past couple of years. It's been really cool.
You have a long kind of almost this like log thread on Cheap Delphi that we see a lot. Are there, and there's a lot of feedback that I see coming from there. Is there anywhere else that you're pulling feedback from? Do you get emails from people or FRC Discord or anything like that as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm on the Discord every day, just searching like Thrifty or TTB or whatever,
Sure.
just to see what people are talking about. So I get feedback from them. I love the Discord because it's a lot of students, right? So it's cool to see what their opinions are, and they're very honest, sometimes brutally, which is fine. I love the feedback. Usually email I'll get from mentors and things like that.
Sure.
So yeah, it's usually those two things, or messages on Chief Delphi, or just people posting in the Chief Delphi thread. We take all that feedback very, very seriously, and people have suggestions for products. Those are things that I'm always actively looking into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, hearing that brutally honest feedback a lot of times, like you said, it's very humbling, but really great information to have from, your consumers, right? Talk to me a little about, as you went into the pandemic. So Thrifty Bot came out in, later 2019. New products coming out, 2020 season hits. A lot of positive things coming out, especially with the 2-inch vector intake wheels is what I think about. And then the pandemic hits. So talk to me about what Thrifty Bot's been doing the last couple of years and how you're looking at approaching the 2022 season with Rapid React.
Yeah, so 2020, Infinite Recharge comes out, and we had those vectored intake wheels released before that, hoping that the game piece would be well suited for it, and it was perfect. We couldn't ask for a better ball to work with those wheels.
Yeah.
And just trying to keep up with that was insane. As many people saw, we were 3D printing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just trying to make as many wheels as possible, and it just wasn't enough, right? Nobody could keep them in stock.
So you were even sourcing them out to other people to print, right? If I remember.
Oh yeah. I was hitting up all my friends with Markforged printers and was just like, help me. so they had a lot of people jumping in trying to help out, which was super cool. It's an awesome community. So one of the things I reapproached in this off season was, okay, that wasn't very sustainable. I wasn't able to scale production very easily just because a Markforged printer is expensive. The materials are expensive. So I spent a lot of time going back to the wheel design and looking at PLA, tough PLA, PETG, things that could be done on like a Prusa printer, which is what I've moved to now. I have a lot of Prusa minis and some Ender 3s, V2s, and just kind of this whole print farm that I've built up over this last off season to be able to scale production on these wheels and offer teams a bevy of color options, which is, teams love the branding. So
what are your most popular colors that you've had so far with that?
I think it's got to be orange. Teams have a lot of orange themes, it seems like. So and including my current team, we're an orange and black team. So
nice. Well,
yeah,
works out well.
So orange and black are kind of the two most popular, but it's been really cool. A lot of teams have bought team specific colored vectored intake wheels. So and they function the same as the other ones, and I'm still gonna produce the Onyx ones as needed, but I think this will kind of give teams an opportunity to get their hands on them if they need them this year.
I was going to ask, on your website, you have a spot for a Onyx 3D print request. Is that something that you're still looking at doing? And what are maybe some things that teams have requested?
Yeah. So honestly, it's just a Google form. Teams can submit STL files, step files, and I'll send them back a quote same day on 3D printing things. A lot of times it's like pulleys. Teams are 3D printing pulleys like crazy these days. And if it's made out of Onyx, it just has a better chance of holding up to any friction or heat or anything like that. PLA over time can wear, and if too much heat builds up, it's probably just going to melt. Teeth are going to melt off on it. So the Onyx pulleys hold up really well. So I've had teams approaching me about having those printed for them. That's probably the most popular thing.
Sure. Well, let's jump into talking about products that you released in 2021, new things coming out for 2022. I'm very excited to talk about as well. So we're gonna bring up on screen here a few things, and if you have the show in hand too, we'll also show you doing that as well. But start us off with the ultraplanetary output shaft.
Yeah, so this was really designed with our Thrifty Swerve in mind. We wanted a way for the Rev Ultraplanetary to interface with Thrifty Swerve. and there wasn't an 8mm keyed option on the market. It is kind of a weird thing, right? But Thrifty Swerve was designed to work with two 8mm 12-tooth pinions right out of the box. So this allows you to mount that ultraplanetary onto the motor mount plate of Thrifty Swerve. It's a really basic part. It has a tap 1032 end on it, and we've had some FTC teams approach us and use it for niche applications or things that they like to do with the ultraplanetary. So that was a cool one we came out with really early in 2021 because we wanted teams to be able to try to save costs, save weight, and use those ultraplanetaries on the module azimuth rotation.
And one question asked as we go into, we'll talk about the next things coming up, which are the aluminum inserts. But have you been noticing, Thrifty Bot, you're obviously very in tune with the FRC community. Are you seeing FTC teams getting parts as well too from you?
Yeah, some of these shafts, things like the squish wheels seem to be pretty popular with
Sure.
FTC teams. They work kind of across the board. Yeah. I would say we're much more FRC focused right now, but we're looking to start to do more things that could work for FTC as well.
Very cool. Well, we have some nitrile threads up on here and aluminum inserts. Talk to me about those.
Yeah, so the 3D printed or the aluminum insert for 3D prints is probably one of my favorite things that we did last year. It's such a basic part. Teams have been pressing gears into 3D printed parts for the last couple of years, but gears can be expensive, right? Like, especially if you get a bigger one. So rather than wasting a perfectly good gear, this is just a shape profile that presses into a 3D printed part that kind of mimics the gear. And it's just a profile that's not going to strip out. It fits over the 1/2-inch hex pretty nicely, and you can use those on pulleys, on maybe things that have a little bit higher torque, higher load requirement, so you don't round out your hex on your 3D printed part. And some of the FRC community people have put that into Onshape. So if you go to the MKCAD pulley generator, you can select the Thrifty Bot insert as the cutout.
Yeah.
So it just puts it into your pulley or your gear or whatever. And super easy to use them. You just press them in with a vise, pair of pliers, arbor press, whatever you have on hand, and they work really well. So yeah, we had the 3D printed insert, or the inserts for the 3D printed parts, and the nitrile tread. Man, I can't say that. We got that in 1-inch and 1.5-inch, and that's just trying to find the best tread for FRC teams, and it's kind of still an ongoing search. This is what I would call the gold standard right now for FRC. Most teams are defaulting to that, but there's some cool McMaster black stuff that we're starting to look into as well, that teams are cutting down for their swerve drives, that is holding up supposedly better than the blue stuff. So
that was actually going to be something I asked, because I know talking to a lot of teams this season that a lot of teams went through a lot of the nitrile tread. I think that would be exciting to see something maybe is a little bit more durable. Now, who knows what the this next game is going to be and how that's going to matter at all for that, right? But I think having an option for that, even for future seasons, potentially would be great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of an ongoing quest with tread. It's never really over because there's just so much stuff out there. Like, there's so many producers of it.
Yeah.
You can get samples and try all this stuff out. A lot of it just doesn't hold up as well as the 3-ply blue nitrile. That's kind of the standard right now. But if we find something better, we'll stock it.
Very cool. Well, we've showed off the different colored vector intake wheels, but of course, let's talk about that a little bit more and some of the wide bearings that you have too.
Yeah. So let's see. We got the colored vectored intake wheels, just really any color in the rainbow, plus some other fun off-brand team colors. I've got some maroon wheels now. We've got old gold because boiler up, right? Just all kinds of different colors. And again, did a lot of impact testing, durability testing with these to make sure that they would survive. I didn't want to create a wheel that was just going to explode when you put it on your robot. These will still hold up pretty well. if you're going to use it on the exterior of your robot, Onyx might still be the way to go if you expect there's going to be quite a few impacts on them. But if they're internal or shielded on your robot, you're probably good. And then, yeah, we had some 3/4 OD, 1/4-inch ID bearings. A lot of these are used in elevator applications. So we started stocking those as well.
Well, next up we have the contact bearings, and I'm very excited to hear more about the telescoping tube kit as well too, Ryan.
Yeah, so this tiny little 3-inch OD, 2.5-inch ID X contact bearing, this was used Nick Cousins on his swerve design, and so a lot of a handful of teams I think started trying to produce that. And I just wanted to have a source for it so teams could easily go pick one up. And yeah, the telescoping tube kit was definitely like the most involved thing I worked on this whole past half of the year, right? I started developing this, I think, back in April, which is kind of awesome. Like, I think within about 2 weeks of each other, my tube kit came out, Andy Mark dropped theirs, and West Coast Products came out with theirs, all kind of at the same timeline. But yeah, it was just like,
I mean, it sounds like y'all know something if you ask me. But
no, I know nothing. But it was just happenstance for me, at least, because like I was trying to get this thing done as quick as I could, and it still took about half a year to do it. I think it's a really basic, neat design. You know, I've got the whole kit mocked up here. 2 stages. Uses constant force springs to expand out of the tube passively. There's a safety pin in there right now, but it's just 2 aluminum plates that are kind of clamping around the tube and holding the bearings, holding the constant force springs that allow it to extend up. And I can show that.
When do we get to see like the 20 stage one?
I did have a 3-stage design, and I just didn't feel good about the. It was going to use a 1/2-inch box extrusion, and it was just ended up being kind of flimsy. Didn't like it as much, so I just went with the 2-stage. So this just passively extends, and I mean it's pretty stout, pretty solid. It uses a 2x2 to a 1.5 by 1.5 to a 1x1, 16th-inch wall. So
for the tube kit, is it just the piece that's being sold, or is it everything altogether, or do you have to buy the aluminum separate?
You would have to bring the aluminum tubes. That's the thing I don't stock. You would get all the hardware and everything to cap each tube, and there are some internal blocks that ride within the tubes. You get the Dyneema cable for climbing. It all comes in a nice little bag that's labeled, and it's there's an assembly video that I'll have finished here the next day or two. But so you would bring the tube basically. I would say that's the one difference. But this also allows you to customize it to. You can get about 3-foot lengths out of each stage if you really want to. If you know the climb objective is that high this year.
I also think it might go against the mantra of the Thrifty Bot if you're charging $100 for shipping as well too.
Yeah, this makes shipping a lot easier. I've tried to stay away from, giant tubes, things like that are just hard for me to stock. I'm more about small parts anyway.
Yeah, for sure. We got a couple of last ones for 2021, then some new products that you're announcing for 2022. But we have the gussets and the magnetic encoder.
Yeah, so the gussets are specifically for elevator applications. Really, it's to try to get your hole pattern and your material as far away from the outside edge as possible on the 2x1. So when your bearings are moving up and down the tube, that they don't hit anything. Hadn't really seen that as its own part, so I wanted to get that produced. We're also, I would say, still developing some elevator application stuff, but just honestly ran out of time to validate it, ran out of budget. So it's kind of sitting. I'm not going to say it's like completely shelved or anything, but it may just be another season before it happens.
To ask, are there any other parts that have kind of been like that through your product life cycle where it's like, hey, these are some concepts we got so far and it didn't quite pan out?
Oh yeah. There's there's been a couple
few,
things.
apparently.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff you see that actually gets posted on the website obviously is like the stuff that made it through. Um, there are a couple things that went into development and it just didn't pan out, right?
Yeah.
Either didn't feel good about selling that as a product to a team, um, because from my standpoint, it needs to be robust, and I need to feel comfortable with my FRC team using it before I would ever want to provide it to another team to use. So a lot of this stuff goes through testing on various FRC robots. Like the tube kit was tested with the Robo Jackets up there in Michigan. They kind of used an earlier version of this on one of their secondary teams that they were running. And it climbed multiple times. It held up pretty well, and they gave me some awesome feedback. So, but yeah, so the other thing you mentioned, the absolute magnetic encoder. This was really exciting. My good buddy Sam Dare, who is going to school now to get his electrical engineering degree, he developed this and designed this board. So when you buy the absolute magnetic encoder, really again was kind of designed with swerve in mind. We have different case options, so you can mount it to your SDS swerve, your West Coast product swerve, your Thrifty swerve. You just pick the case that you want. But it's just a tiny little board with a 3-pin output. You get your magnet with it. You get your 3-wire cable with it. You get the case. You get the hardware to mount it. So we really tried to create a product where you get everything you need to use it out of the box. You don't have to go buy another cable or anything like that. And it's our first sensor. So that was kind of a really big deal. We wanted to dip our toe into the sensor stuff.
Before we jump into the 2022 products that the Thrifty Bot is releasing, let's take a moment to thank Kettering University for their sponsorship. And you can learn how you can graduate debt-free by attending Kettering.
When I was considering where to go to college, one of the biggest things for me was figuring out how I was going to be able to pay for college. And it wasn't really until I came to Kettering to one of the Dog Days of Summer events that I figured out how I was going to be able to do that. And it was actually because of this senior chemical engineering student. She was getting ready to graduate and she had told me about all of her phenomenal experiences both on co-op and here on campus. But more importantly, she told me that she was going to graduate debt-free. And that was an eye-opener for me. That was the first time I'd ever heard that from a college student, and so that's when I knew that I was sold. So really from there, as soon as I came to Kettering, I knew that that was going to be my goal. I wanted to graduate debt-free. And I did that through a variety of ways. First, of course, the co-op experience was a tremendous help, but I even looked at ways to work here on campus. So I was a federal work study student. I worked in a variety of organizations. And that not only gave me the extra funds, but also different opportunities to meet people and understand our resources here at Kettering. Also looking at scholarships not only here at Kettering University, but even from my hometown and other sources, all of this cumulatively helped me to graduate debt-free.
Well, we have some products for 2022 that we're going to be talking about here. I think there's 3 of them, if I remember correctly. Talked about some of the new stuff that's coming out. I think we'll start with the hex adapters.
Yeah, so this is something that I've been wanting to do for probably 2 years now, and I just never got around to it, and it's happening now. So we are getting 8mm keyed half-inch hex adapters. They're rounded on the edges so that you could use them with the Thunder Hex applications. And we are getting Falcon spline ones as well. They're the same lengths, and they feel great fitting up on the Falcon output shafts, the short ones, the long ones, the ones that come with the motor themselves. So the fit is really nice on them. And yeah, teams have been asking for these for a long time, and I just honestly finally got around to doing it. So I'm excited for that. I like doing adapters just to make things easy and make things work for teams.
So are in general, you got feedback from teams or kind of like, hey, this would be something that help out a lot, and that's where this came from?
Yeah. I mean, 8mm keyed adapters have been around for, forever now, it seems like. Sure. And it's just something you want to have like a 4-pack or 5-pack on hand. And, you just never know when, especially early on when you're slapping stuff together and prototyping, it's like, oh no, this needs to be, half-inch hex, and we got these adapters in this drawer. So it's one of those things where I think teams just like to have a pack of them on hand, and I know we do as well.
And then when are these already available, or when are you planning on having these released?
These are planning to come here this next week.
Great.
So assuming everything's validated and there's no quality issues, we'll check them and everything. But it's a pretty basic part, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. We'll get those up on the website before kickoff.
Very cool. And how about the mega plate that you're looking at doing?
Yeah. So we already have the motor mega plate, right? Which is the one with all the holes in it. That was another 2021 thing we came out with. And I just wanted a plate that you can mount literally like anything to.
Sure.
You can mount a 550 motor, 775 motor, a Verse Planetary, an Ultra Planetary. Just I want one thing that I can mount everything to. So that was the idea behind that.
So what are the dimensions of this, by the way?
It's like a 2-inch wide plate, so you can stack them next to each other and get those really nice kind of belt length runs and stuff that I know Vex has some guides on that you can go look up, where they got the center to center distance where everything plays real nicely. But almost immediately it's like, well, you should come out with a bearing bore version of that's the same dimensions physically, and then you can really start to do some nice things where you're supporting the length of your hex shaft if you have an output, or just some other things, if you just want to mount a bearing somewhere. So that's the next one that's going to come out. These are really thick. These are 4mm thick plates, and that was by design. A lot of the gusset plates I think on the market are good for some things, but are, in my opinion, kind of wimpy for other things. So I wanted something that was really chunky that you could slap on the outside of an intake and hope it survives if you run into the wall or something with it. So I used them for the climb video. I just kind of mounted them on the bottom of the tube, put a Versa Planetary on it, put my spool on that, and it held up great. Like only took like 2 rivets on each one. They're just so stiff, right? So that's what I like about them.
And how about release for this one?
Yeah, those are coming here. Should be by kickoff as well.
Great. The last thing we're going to be talking about is the Thrifty Cam.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be like a cheap camera we could buy at first.
No, it's just a cam. So I've got my clamping bearing blocks that I came out with in 2020, I believe. And, again, immediately teams are like, well, it'd be really cool if you had a cam because the other ones on the market have a cam. And it's just literally a shape profile that you use to push against the clamping bearing block and make sure that you're adjusting your belt or your chain and having a way to get a wrench on that and actually torque it properly. I would say just compared to others on the market, I made the hex stick out further because I really wanted you to maybe even be able to get a socket on there or just the proper depth for the thickness of the wrenches that I usually see teams working with. Other than that, it's not anything too crazy. It's just something that teams have been asking for over a year now. So.
Well, I think, for Thrifty Bot, that's really one of your main missions and goals, right? Is to provide these things that, you do have some, fancy things out there, but in general, a lot of your parts are things that just teams need, right? And you're going to provide those at, from your end, you're saying very value-based, but also something that's going to last as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of this stuff I would consider to kind of be consumable stuff that if you're going to build a new robot, you're going to go pick up packs of these things, bearings, intake wheels, different things, and just trying to provide those at a lower price point so that teams aren't breaking the bank every year when they build their robot. That's my goal.
Well, that's going to be for new products. We're going to jump into our next segment here called Explain That Image, where we have a few images that we found on the internet. Ryan has not seen these yet, by the way, for on here. Well, some of them border on the cute and some are on the a little more fun to talk about. But first one I want to bring up here is I saw this going on your site, not to promote your gift cards or anything, but I love this drawing. Can you talk about Finn's drawing a little bit on this?
Yeah. So one of my buddies was like, hey, you don't have gift cards on your site. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. I can do that. And I had I think he was 4 or 5 at the time. He's 6 now, but my son, Finn, I was like, hey, will you draw me what a gift card would look like? And he,
that's awesome.
So I love it. I love it. People every now and then come across it and they're like, what is this? And it's like, oh yeah, my kid drew that.
Right. Well, what's the inspiration behind the logo, by the way? I mean, obviously you got the money signs with the robot, but like, where did you come up with it?
Yeah, I think back in 19, I Googled money robot or something and just found something that I kind of liked or robot graphics. And I wanted something very clean and like basic and not a lot going on, so you could make stickers. So if I wanted to get it on a shirt or whatever, it'd be pretty easy to do. And it's worked out fine. I think,
I think it's great. I love it.
You see it and it's pretty recognizable, but yeah, there wasn't a ton of time or thought put into that logo. That was like a 30-minute thing.
I mean, those are the best things, right? So
yeah.
Speaking of friends, we're going to bring up this one from Vexworlds back in 2015.
Yeah, that was a good one. So that's my friend Akash, and he's just a great dude. And yeah, so I was emceed of X Worlds a couple of different years, and they had this awesome. It was the coolest thing. It was a printer, and I think it was like an Instagram thing where if you did the right hashtag, it would automatically print those out. There was just like a photo printer going constantly through the event, so I kept carrying the next one around and got like 5 levels deep eventually of holding this picture.
Nice. And this was before Louisville, right? Was this in Anaheim or where was this one?
15 might have been the first year in Louisville.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because I think the year before that was out in Anaheim.
Very cool.
It's hard to remember. They all blur together.
Yeah, right. Well, and with the pandemic, everything seems like it was like 2 years closer than what it actually was. So
yeah,
I hear you. I found on your site you got a link to some really cool T-shirt quilts.
Yes. So Katie makes those, and she's just so talented. And one night she's like, just talking about them. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick this link on my website because I think it's really cool what you do, and you're an awesome person. And so it's on there now. If you want an awesome T-shirt quilt, go check that out. She's got a Little Dog Robotics. I think it's like an Etsy thing, or it might be its own site. I can't remember.
It's on Etsy. It looks like.
Okay. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
and the last one, I couldn't find, you and I were talking about this pre-show. I couldn't find a picture because you and I did, the first event you and I did together was 2007 Wisconsin Regional. We emceed in GA. So I couldn't find that picture. But I found one where, I'm not kidding you, I looked at it and I actually thought it was me. Apparently you and I kind of look similar and a few pounds lighter too back then. But from this one back in 2003. I'm not sure this was at IRI or where this was at.
It was IRI. I remember that. They had a human player competition.
Yeah.
And like, I wasn't even the human player. They were just like, you want to go do this? I was like, sure. And it was terrible. I tried to win the whole stack.
That's why I thought it was me, because I was the human player that year.
They all fell over or something. Yeah. That was a wild game. That was fun. Yeah,
that was really good times on there. So, Ryan, we appreciate you giving some a trip down memory lane for a few things on there. So, so that's gonna wrap up Explain That Image, and that's actually gonna wrap up our show for today. We appreciate Ryan you coming by, talking more about the Thrifty Bot. Check out more at thethriftybot.com. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up for today?
I just appreciate all the support from the teams and everyone. And, if you have ideas or questions, feel free and hit me up, contact at thethriftybot.com. I'm always around, and just good luck here in this next 2022 season. I think it's going to be kind of a reset year for a lot of teams, and, keep it simple and have some fun.
Yeah, Rapid Reset might have been a better name for this year coming up. But and before we wrap up, don't forget we are giving away, or Thrifty Bot is giving away a pack of their vectored intake wheels. You can pick any color you'd like for that. And Ryan, your favorite color is orange, right? As you mentioned so far.
I do like the orange. It looks really good.
Very cool. So if you're interested in winning that, type in the comments below what your favorite color is, or which color you would pick for your team for a chance to win a pack. Once again, thanks to Ryan and ThriftyBot.com for coming on. That's going to wrap it up for FRC Updates Now. Don't forget, you can find out more about what we have going on in our Discord, discord.gg/First Updates Now. We have a fun gaming league and full bore Valorant tournament coming up very soon. Robot in 3 days coming up as well, too, which we'll have some ThriftyBot stuff on there. So can't wait to talk to you about it. But that's going to be it for FRC Updates Now. We'll see you next time. Talk to you then. Thanks to Kettering University for their support of this video. Kettering University is a national leader in experiential STEM and business education. Discover why so many First alumni come to Kettering University by scheduling a virtual visit at Kettering.edu. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/First Updates Now. Join our Discord at discord.gg/First Updates Now. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.